schools got shot up, and so on and so forth. Since 2013, as of present, that's 4.5 years now, there's been over 300 school and church shootings. And there's always some, sad to say, there's always some form of casualty. So I hope that this evening you guys will learn something. And don't keep it to yourself. I don't know why I'm echoing. Don't keep it to yourself. Take it to your church members. As my dear sister said, take it to the deacons. Take it to the deaconesses. Your security guys that's in charge. See, one thing about Mountainside, we are fortunate. I think I'm...
Told you I'm Sergeant Stafford, so you can call me Keith if you like. That's my name. That's what I go by. I've worked with Yep. Again. I've worked with the police department for 25 years. During that course of time, I've done everything from worked street crime units to robbery, homicide. I'm currently over here at South Precinct in the investigations unit. So I've done a little bit of everything. Right now, I'm also, hence this look that I'm wearing today, I'm on call for the SWAT team as a negotiator. So I do several things. This class was designed in response to the active shooter situations that we see popping up in the news, right? Nobody knows. What do I do if I get caught in that? Does anybody have a clue? What would you do if you got caught up? They don't just happen at schools. One of the videos we're going to watch, which we went over last week, a video, it is in a Sam's Club type warehouse, grocery store, whatever you want to call it. Okay? A lot of these, the numbers that you see and hear are not just schools. You hear about the schools. Because why? Kids. Right? You don't hear about the stores where they go unless you have a kid or something. You've got to have something for the media to drive that story, right? This happens a lot more frequently than anybody realizes. So, first thing we're going to start with is, what is an active shooter? Anybody have any ideas? What's their goal? Absolutely. What are they doing it for? What's their purpose? Who knows? Most of them, I believe, and I think it's proven out, most of them have some unresolved psychological issue. Most of them do. All right, an active shooter is the suspect's activity is immediately causing death or serious bodily injury. That means he's doing something. He or she is doing something right then. Their only goal is to hurt or kill somebody. They have no purpose. They have no point. They are not a terrorist. A terrorist has a political goal. It's not a hostage taker. They have a goal in mind. They have something they want for this hostage. This person just wants to hurt and kill people. Period. Okay? The activity is not contained. Let me say that again. It's not contained. These people are highly mobile. They are moving, and they're moving very, very quickly. There's immediate risk of death or serious injury to potential victims. Notice what it doesn't say, a targeted victim. There may or may not be a targeted victim included in the victims. Most of the time there's not. Most of the time there's not. Characteristics of an active shooter situation. Victims are selected at random. Like I said, they're not there after a specific person. They might have somebody, in the case of a school shooting, maybe they've got one particular student who was particularly mean to them, did something to them that they're going to try to even that score. But most active shooters, that's not the case. They don't care who the victim is. It can be anyone. Again, the event is unpredictable and it evolves very, very quickly. Of 160 shootings, active shooter incidents occurred between 2000 and 2013. 60% ended before law enforcement arrived. Let that sink in for a minute. More than half were over before the police got there, with multiple victims. I'll be the first to say, sometimes it takes us a minute to get somewhere. If anybody in the room's called police, they know. This goes under our system as what's called a priority 1 call. With a priority 1 call, generally we're there right at 2 minutes, which is pretty quick. Unless we happen to be sitting right out front, and then we're there faster. That is why this class is so important. It tells you, A, what to do before we get there, and B, what to do after we get there. Because we're not going to have time to stop and talk with you. And we don't want anybody to get hurt by us trying to find the bad guy, right? First thing you need to know, this class is built around an acronym called ADD. Avoid, that's this first part, deny and defend. Okay? Avoid is really, really simple. It is exactly what it means. If you can get out of that area when this starts, you get out. You do not stop. You don't call 911 until you're out safe. Once you're safe, call 911. After you're out. Deny. Get somewhere where you can secure yourself or a group of people, where you can deny that person access to you and those other people. This is your second best option. First best is what? Get out. Exactly. Get out. This is a worst case scenario. Defend. This means I couldn't get out. There was nowhere for me to hide. So I've got one option left. I'm going to fight this guy. And I'm going to give him all the love I can possibly give him in the most violent way I can think of. Okay? Because his goal is what? To hurt you. That's right. So him or me is going to be who? Him. Right? As I told him in the last class down here. A good way to think of this. Noah's Ark. Everybody knows the story, right? 2 animals, right? Think of the one that's most like us. Monkeys. You need to fight this person like the third monkey at the door of Noah's Ark. Because 2 made it on. That third one, what happened to him? Right? So just to add a little levity there, You will use whatever you can. I pointed out in here, everybody's got a hymnal or something in front of you on the pew. Right? I see some older folks in here, and I'm sure when you were acting up and you were younger, you might have caught one of these across the backside, right? I know I did, but you never caught one like that. You can really hurt somebody like that. That's a weapon. Okay? Be creative. Use what you have available. Not everybody, you're not always going to have weapons. Use your hands. Exactly. Whatever you can use. Again, we're not fighting fair. We're going to do what? We're going to attack what? Soft targets. Eyes, throat, groin. Right? We're going to put an end to this quick. So again, avoid, deny, defend. That's what we need to do in this situation. I believe we've got. You want to do these? See. Now this is something we didn't do last week, so this could be interesting. This would be a little more specific to the church here and the church grounds, okay? Real quick, while they're passing that stuff out, the first thing I want to do is I want to point out to you, which I usually lead off, and I apologize, I'm a little out of sorts today. But people, we need to have recognition of where we're at, what's going on around us, right? When you walk into a room or restaurant, wherever, how many of you take the time to evaluate the whole place and learn, how do I get out of here? Right. I say that to say, if everybody remembers the nightclub fire, I believe it was up north somewhere here a few years ago, where they had the band in there playing. A lot of people don't realize they had a high victim mortality rate there. About 80 of those people died in the front doorway because they were trying to go right back out the way they came in. Now, what's really unique about that is that nightclub was built in like an old restaurant that had nothing but glass windows in the front. Not a single one inside broke a window out. Somebody from outside broke windows. So again, when you walk into a room, you need to be evaluating, if something goes wrong, how can I get out of here? Right? Guys, this is something a little different on these scenarios we're going to try. They came up with several scenarios for here at your church. We're going to try to get us a couple of volunteers to kind of step into a role so that everybody else can physically see what we're talking about in these, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to try to come up with a best response. okay? What's the best response? Survive. Survive, period. Whether you get out, whether you hide and they can't get to you, or whether you have to fight them and you win. But ultimately, if you're caught in this, your best absolute thing is to survive, period. Right? Deny them any access to an additional victim. Does anybody got any questions at this point while we're waiting on some copies?
We're going to do a little role play in a little while, and our dear friend Corey has volunteered to be the scapegoat. Thank you, Corey. No, you won't die.
Tell you what, we're going to kind of jump a little bit since we're waiting on copies, and I'll go over this. If you ever are caught in this situation, one of these, remember the police are coming. Remember, it's going to be complete chaos. So when they come in and you see them, the only thing you need to do is this. And I will promise you, in that situation, that officer, he's up here adrenaline-wise. He's moving to that movement. So do what they say and take care of that as they come through. If you are injured or if your loved one is injured, the bad news is they're not stopping, especially if there's still shooting going on. Our officers are trained, they go to the gunfire. Like a bunch of, for lack of a better way of putting it, like a bunch of rabid dogs, they're going to the gunfire because they're going to stop that. Period. Okay? If you're hurt, they're going to get help to you, but those first officers will go right past you and not say a word. Okay? Don't hold it against them. Because what is their goal? Stop the killing. Because that other person's in there trying to kill people. That's their job. Remember this, and we discussed this last week. Everybody saw the school shooting in Florida, right? I mean, it's all over the news. Everybody saw the haphazard manner in which all those emergency responders were parked out front. Chaos, right? And everybody also saw that this was a long, drawn-out thing. How long did it take them to declare that that school was safe? Several hours. Because the officers have to get to every room and ensure there's no bad guy there. Right? We've learned, and it's fair to assume that if you've got one bad guy, you've got another one. Would that not be fair in a situation like this? Look at Columbine. There's two there. Multiple times there's been two. The officers are not going to be overly friendly. They're not. They're on a mission. So just do as they tell you and shuttle right along. They're going to get you where you're safest. Right? But like I said, it may take a while. Because we have to get an area where we can get the injured people to so the medical people can come in. right, and render the aid, because we don't want to bring the medical people into an area that's unsecure to have additional victims who are actually the ones who could help the victims, right? So bear with us if you're ever caught there. Are we good? Did everybody get a copy of the scenarios? If you didn't, just raise your hand for me so I can see. Oh, here we come. Here's some more. Okay. We good? All right, everybody good? Everybody's got number one, right? All right, I'll read it, and you guys can read along, and we're going to use our volunteer. He's going to be our active shooter, if you will, so that we've got a visual reference up here of him coming in. And honestly, what I'd like to hear is what you guys think. How could you handle that? This is before the police get here. I know you know very little about all this now. Who out here is former military? Show of hands. Okay. Any police? Fire? Okay. All right. So scenario number one. It's the Sabbath morning. We're having an 11 a.m. service. We have a special program planned, and the church main sanctuary is full. The two overflow rooms are full. The back right side and front door are unlocked. However, the left front and left backside door and the kitchen door are locked. Doors to the fellowship hall are open. The ushers are posted at the front sanctuary door. Children are going in and out. People are sitting in the lobby, and one usher is outside. An active shooter is seated in the back of the sanctuary. Here she stands up during the middle of the service, pulls out a gun. She has not started shooting, just shouting words. What would you do? up under the pew.
We'll get a mic.
That's actually a valid idea response. I would caution you against going under the pew because now you have trapped yourself to a point. If you can get under it and make it all the way down to one of these open doors, do it. These pews are pretty much what? Wood, right? It's going to slow a bullet down. I don't know how thick the wood is, whether or not it would stop it, but it'll definitely slow it. If you can drop and get all the way on the ground and belly crawl, they can't see you when you do that, right? If they're standing in the back, just pick a place in the pews. So I mean, he's back there, and you drop. We're going to use these pews to protect us, right? What's going to happen if you stand up?
Easy
You're
target.
a target. You just became his target. The human eye reacts to movement. So the best thing you can do is exactly like the young lady said, drop, get down, get under the pew. But don't just get there and stop. Move. Get out of there. Okay? Just move. Get to those open doors that are open. Now for my ushers, put her back in the back. I got one who's out in the hallway. What's that person need to be doing?
Okay. All right. If I can get you to raise your hand.
Raise your hands.
And we'll get you a mic.
The usher that's outside in the foyer area need to be clearing the area out.
That's right. He needs to clear those people out. Get them out. Quickly and fast. I mean, as safe as possible, but as fast as absolute possible. All right, we had some ushers that were in the back of the room. What are they going to do? Again,
On ushers.
what are you going to do? You're stuck in the back. There's my shooter right there in the middle. And I don't know, do y'all have assigned seating when you're serving as an usher? So you could just be intermingled anywhere?
Yes.
You're assigned an area? Right, but I'm saying once services have started, do y'all post at certain spots? Okay. So my shooter's right there. We know where it is. So based on where you would be posted, how are you going to deal with it? What are you going to do? Sir?
Try to find one of the signal one of the security officers.
Right. Right.
Best business.
Again, the first usher's outside. He's got that handled, right? Hopefully. Got everybody out of the lobby. Hopefully he also, at that point, after he got everybody out, 911, this is what I saw. After he's got those people out of there. This is what I saw. This is, the shooter's in there. He's a young guy. He's got a beard, blue shirt. Be very distinctive, as distinctive as you can on the description of him. Because remember, this is going to be chaos. There's lots of people going to be calling. And I will promise you, I could send a description around this room and I could send it person to person. And by the time it got to the end, it wouldn't be anything like what I gave you.
Okay. In the foyer, those double doors that's going to the courtyard, those doors, while the sanctuary is full, should always be unlocked. So the usher, the first thing they would do is swing those doors open so whoever's out there would go through that courtyard right over into the fellowship hall and right out the back doors. What do you think about that?
Again, as long as they're getting away from the shooter. And this is always your unknown. Because, again, I think in the description, did that scenario have the fellowship hall full as well? So is there a second shooter over there?
You don't know.
We don't know.
Right. So you don't know. So are we sending these people over to another shooter? Is there another way we can get them out? So that they're straight outside.
Okay, like he mentioned, you need to know your environment. See our 2 exit doors? Okay? When he say drop to the floor, that means drop to the floor and go that way and try to make your way up to those 2 exits.
Oh, I would actually stay under the pews.
Okay, what if he's walking?
Huh?
What if he's walking?
Keep moving. Just get away from him. Once you make a determination of what you're going to do, nothing's going to stop you, right? You are going to that exit because if you have any second doubts, somebody right in front of you might get hurt and you might, oh, this is the wrong way, right? You've got to determine this plan in your mind.
If I think you said the scenario, if the ushers are in the back, the shooter is where he is, and he's facing that way, we've got these that we can just try to throw at him. I mean, everyone should be pretty much on the ground. I'm sorry, I would pick up, this is a hardback something. If it can hit him in the right spot, they're behind. You have 2 ushers. I would try to knock him out. That's just me.
All right, you might have come in a little bit late, but yes, you're absolutely right, and I was waiting on somebody to say that. How many people are in this room right now? How many? How many of him are there? You think he can take us all? No. I'm not telling you to hurt yourself, and if you, by all means, if you are uncomfortable doing it, get out. But in that situation where you've got just one guy and you've got this whole congregation, good Lord will be good and happy with you, because he don't want anybody hurt either, right? Take care of that situation. You can handle it, especially if he makes that error. That's a critical error. If he moves down, he's now put people behind him. So now you got a sneak attack. And if you hit him hard enough with that book like I showed you, I promise you, he's going to go down and he may not come back up if you hit him in the back of the neck. When he comes up, he's going to be rolling around in a wheelchair. You hit him hard enough. Okay? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. A lot of the situations, they have automatic weapons or one of those, I guess you call it AK-50s, whatever you call them, those big guns that shoots several rounds, shoots a lot of rounds at one time. What will you suggest on that? I mean...
Okay, on those, and you'll actually see somewhat of an example of that, actually a couple of examples of that in some of the videos we're going to watch. And he's referring to these ones, they've gotten the tag in the name assault weapons, okay? I was in the military, Mr. Sicard was in the military. I'm sure he's going to agree with what I'm fixing to state. A lot of those times, the AR-15s that everybody's so angry with right now, it's nothing more than a glorified .22 rifle. To put some perspective on that, okay, it's not a military weapon. Most people cannot afford a military-grade weapon. A military-grade weapon costs about $25,000. Okay? The ones you hear about cost anywhere from, I've seen them as low as $800 up to $1,500. They're still expensive. If he has that, he has a long weapon. Has anybody got a stick? Just a stick? Has anybody got a walking stick?
What did she go to? Sister Henderson. Sister Henderson, can we borrow your cane here? Can we borrow this? Okay.
And I'm going to use this simply as an example. This kind of looks like a weapon, right? Those nasty, mean assault weapons you hear about, right? About the same length. So I'm holding it. What do I have here? No, it's not automatic. Look where that barrel is. I don't have control. no matter what I do. Reach out there. Reach out and grab the front. Push it to the ground. He controls the front of my weapon. Once that happens, once you get control of that weapon, then somebody needs to be attacking. Right? He's got it. It's not like this one. I can hold this in close. You've got to get really close to me to do something. If he has the long rifle, you don't have to get so close. Will you get hurt? Potentially. Potentially you could. But the greater good, right? We may have to get hurt. I thought I saw somebody with a hand up.
Yeah, I think the thing is, if he's coming with a long gun and someone grabs it, then the rest of the congregation don't need to panic. The rest of the congregation just need to, help, moving right away.
Absolutely.
Someone is brave enough to make that first move, then everybody don't need to be heading for the door.
Exactly.
The rest just need to move in. And
if you feel like you have nothing to add to that fight, once you see somebody grab that weapon and get control of it, if you've got nothing to add to that fight, there's the door. There's the door. There's the door. Whatever way you can get out, that person that grabbed that weapon gave you the opportunity to avoid. Right? I mean, he's going to be in a fight. He or she will be in a fight. If you don't have something to offer to that fight, you need to get on out.
one more question. Why is it when the police is called, they have to ask a whole lot of questions? What is your name? What is your number? Where do you live? And a whole lot of, instead of heading for that. I call and said there's a shooting here and it's being done now at the Seventh-day Adventist Church at so-and-so, and maybe a described person. Instead of heading out, why do they normally have to ask, these whole lot of questions, prolonging,
Okay, his question is when, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you call 911, you get 20 questions, right? Believe it or not, people call 911 for fraudulent reasons. We have been dispatched 2 calls saying that Jeff to the left is over here in this house being held against their will. They call it swatting. People are doing it hoping to get a SWAT team response. So again, they're going to ask questions. Yes, it does delay. I will promise you that given a certain situation, as those calls are rolling in on something like this, after the first 1 or 2 calls, you're probably not going to get that, because they will realize, hey, we've got a valid situation. They're going to want to know what information you can provide. They may ask your name, because later we're going to have to come talk to you, the investigative side, right? But they will have your number, and they may ask your name. But once enough people have made that call and you say, I'm here at the Adventist Church, and what can you tell me? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and again, and to answer that, I'm sure you can. I've never worked up in radio as a communications person. They have a very difficult job, but they have a set protocol that they go through that helps them prioritize the call as well as know exactly what needs to be dispatched. I'll give you an example. We just did a training scenario at Emory University. The initial call that they got was a person shot, and I about fell over, and I don't know if it was because they set it up that way in the training thing, but it was a person shot at the dorms and they dispatched the medical people before the police. Now, I don't know if they intentionally did that but as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's kind of odd. Because I will tell you, if there's reports of anything, we're coming. The police are coming. Almost anything. Unless it is just straight medical call, we won't go. But if there's an allegation that somebody's fighting or something, our job is to go and make sure that the EMS people are safe. Right? I mean, they've got no way to protect themselves.
We have a question back here.
Did that answer that?
No, it wasn't a question. It was a comment. I'm going back to the shooter. If the shooter's right there and someone distract him up there, people back here can bring him down.
Exactly. Like I said, if he gets to this point, let's just say he gets up here and I'm him. If I'm not turning around and watching you guys, how many of y'all are there? I don't, I just need 2 or 3 of you to go down there and give him some love. But that's all we need. Once, like I said, if they come in with that long gun, which seems to be the choice, control that front end of that barrel, and then the rest of you just gang on them. We go back to third monkey getting on Noah's Ark. One of them's not getting on, right? He's not getting on the ark that day. Yes, ma'am.
Just answering the gentleman's question. I worked in emergency communications for over 15 years. And one of the reasons why 911 asks so many questions is because sometimes when people are in such a panic, they don't give the correct location. So that's why we have to ask you twice. You may be at Mountainside, but out of your panic, you may say, well, I'm at Maranatha, SDA. So we have to ask twice just to make sure you are given the correct location. Because in an emergency situation, the number one thing that we need is the location. Location is the key. Because if you give us the wrong information and we send in officers somewhere else, you're not helping yourself. So that's the main reason why we need location. And the second most important thing is, what is the problem? What's going on? Sometimes people are in such a panic, they don't think straight. So they give the wrong location. They give their wrong callback number. If we need additional information, we need to call you back. So those 2 things to keep in mind. Make sure you have the correct location. And the second thing, just tell us exactly what's going on. And even if you just say it one time, we're going to send, especially if it's something like a shooting. Oh, those officers are rolling. If you just say what the problem is and where the location is and hang up, we got the information. We're sending. They're rolling. I hope that answers your question.
Good. I'm glad you were here to answer that. And she's absolutely right. I have had that situation happen that she talks about where the caller hangs up and we go there. And lo and behold, generally you get that, we have another caller who calls in, right? Usually. Sometimes not so much. But yes, it's very important to remember this, that the communications people are our lifeline. They're our eyes before we get there. So we're not going into it blind, which is why the importance of the information you provide them.
She said sometimes the folks hang up, and sometimes you have to hang up because, say for example, there's a shooting, and I have the privilege of calling, but I have to hang up because the shooter may be heading my way. Would you be calling back?
Yeah, they're generally going to call back, but given that situation, and I'll kind of defer to her what she might like. personally, what I'm going to like, because she's trained to listen, right? Don't hang up, just drop the phone. And let her listen to what's going on. Again, think ahead. Remember, communications, they're our eyes and ears before we get there. She's feeding us information so that we can put a stop to this. If you guys don't, or it's not already over before we get there.
Yes, we are nonviolent. We don't fight and all that. We pray. Wouldn't prayer help? I mean,
I will, and I'm
see hitting anybody. I would rather
again, I completely agree with you. I do. I understand the conundrum there. I do understand the conundrum that puts you in a bad spot. I would get away from the situation and not entertain. But you're going to come to this point potentially that you're going to have to resolve that and how you would choose to do it. I can't tell you how to do it. It is, how would you resolve that? And again, these are things that as you live here today and as you go through the week, you need to be talking to yourself. You need to be talking to your friends and family to help you figure that out. Again, talk to people, talk to your friends, families, and neighbors about all this stuff. Anybody can get caught in this. And if you don't have a plan prior to, you're very likely to get hurt, if not killed. Okay?
Is it true that some states, they have the ability for you to text 911? Like,
I believe so. Do we have an ability locally for text to 911? Have we gotten that yet? Do you know? Text to a 911 center.
Well, I'm no longer working in 911 now, but about 3 years ago I heard that it was coming, so I don't know if it is now or not.
And that's me. I don't know. My guess is if it's not, it's probably in the works of be here shortly. Okay?
Because I had heard that too, but I think it ended up being this thing where certain states had it, and I was wondering if Georgia had it or...
Well, and again, as with any electronic technology like that, you'll have rollouts in certain areas because a lot of them are checking it to see, will this actually work? You know, you don't want to come out and throw it across all 50 states and say this works and it doesn't work. How old are you? So several years ago, and I'm just using as an example, several years ago, when Dunwoody started up their police department, I'm sure everybody that watched the news saw the problems they were having with their 911 system. And I think that was because it was cell phone based somehow. And it was a new technology. So anytime you have a new technology, you got to work out the bugs.
Pam, I think you had a question back there. Sister Evans? Pam? Does someone else have a question?
Okay, let's go to scenario number 2.
2. All right, everybody's on scenario number 2. Just read along with me if you will. It is Sabbath morning. We're having an 11 a.m. service. The church's main sanctuary is full. 2 overflow rooms are full. Children's church is going on in the fellowship hall. The back right side and front right doors are unlocked. However, the left front and back doors and kitchen doors are locked from the outside. You can exit but not come back in. Someone left the back door open by putting a rug in the door. 3 armed shooters entered the left back door that was open. One went to the fellowship hall. The other 2 came down the left side hall and entered the lobby with guns drawn. They proceed to the sanctuary. What should we do? Again, you've gone from 1 to, let's just say everybody's in here. We don't know anything about the fellowship hall. But you know you've got 2 in here.
We should start crawling and heading towards these 2 exit doors to avoid, start with A.
But again, if you've got this situation where now it's changing a little bit, you've got 2 guys now. I don't know that I would be quick to attack, right? I just don't know, because now, unless you can get enough people involved in this swarm, I don't know that I would. I would be looking at the option of, how do I get out of here? And I would get out. Outright. Unless you get cornered and put in a place where you can't escape from, and then you're just going to need to fight it out. Based on this. Without knowing the layout of the church, fellowship is which direction? Straight ahead across the courtyard? Okay. So let's say you make it out and you get out those back doors. And then all of a sudden you can see across the courtyard and you see chaos going on over there. Now what are you going to do? I mean, well, the opposite direction be right back in here, right? Right. You go out, you see what you see, and it's an exit stage left, exit stage right. Get out of the building, get away from the building, stop and call 911. I just left the building, this is what I saw. And be very detailed in it. Because now you've got out with some key information that we may not have. Right? I saw 2 people in the sanctuary armed. I saw 1 in the fellowship hall. Right? And we're going to be getting calls of people going, I'm shot, so-and-so shot. Right? Let's say somebody gets shot over there, fellowship hall, and the call comes in. And she'll attest to, my baby's shot over here. And then we go through the questions, slows it down to verify. But all I know is there's 1 person with a gun over there. Police officer comes rolling in, and he's immediately going that way. But these guys have turned and come out the back. They just got ambushed. And the one quick lifeline that was here quick just got removed. So you want to give good, detailed information if you have it. Again, if it happens and, my son or my daughter has been shot, here's where we are, it's an active shooter. Can you describe the shooter? Well, he's wearing this. Are there any other shooters? I don't know. If you hear gunshots in another part of the building, I hear gunshots in another part of the building. This is the only one I've seen. Right? Because that tells us there's multiple, or a potential for multiple people in there. If we're getting out of here, that's a conundrum. Which door is unlocked? Which door? This one over here? Is that the only way out? There you go. I've been waiting on somebody to say the windows. Nobody said it in the first scenario. And remember, I gave you the example of the nightclub fire where nobody inside broke a window. Nobody has addressed these windows. Go through that window. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but our windows are made of plexiglass.
You can get through it.
We can break through them?
You can get through it. You are not bad enough, you'll get through it. I will promise you. Unless it is bullet-resistant glass, you can get through. Might be a little harder. Does anybody else got any ideas, thoughts? Yes, sir.
I'm wondering, why don't we have more policemen, coming to church expecting this kind of thing? Or we as Christians, maybe we need to start baptizing more policemen. having them in our services every morning, sitting at strategic point, always looking for this kind of.
Well, and again, I appreciate that offer, and you got to remember a lot of police officers are actually Christian. They very much are.
And in this church, we do have officers.
The one thing I will say is that, like the young lady pointed out, depending on which denomination, you got to be right with yourself and your beliefs to sometimes act with violence. I mean, you have to. Because unfortunately, that is an unfortunate part of this job and this career, that sometimes you have to act with violence to keep people safe.
Yeah, when we began, I think the gentleman there said that this church was fortunate enough to have 3 policemen in it. Just for the sake of argument, because we've gotten to the point where we want to carry our own weapons now. I think maybe we need to talk about if the deacons had weapons, what need to be done with that scenario. Because if they haven't had training, I could be more in danger of them than the shooter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I had to preface this last week, and I'm going to preface it again this week. I am in no way putting out the policy or the intent of the DeKalb County Police Department nor DeKalb County government. All right? I am responding to your question as an individual. Is everybody good with that? You're absolutely correct. If you decide you want to be armed, I personally think everybody in this room that is old enough and meets the obligations to be armed should be armed. That's my personal view. Okay? Again, like I said last week, I do not think anybody in this room needs to be able to go buy an M1 Abrams tank. I don't, But if you want a gun, by all means, you should be able to purchase it. If you personally have $25,000 or better to go buy that machine gun and use it responsibly, more power to you. I don't have the money. I have shot machine guns. They are a lot of fun to shoot if you enjoy shooting. Are they effective for anything? Not really. Again, remember what that feature was designed for somebody in the military to go and keep the other side's heads down. It's not really an aimed shot for the most part. But if you want to own a gun, get with the NRA or some other reputable group that trains and has reputable training in place. Spend the money, get trained. They're going to start with gun safety. Actually, if they do it the correct way, especially for some of you ladies, they're going to start with personal safety, which has got nothing to do with the gun. They're going to teach you how to defend yourself physically. They're going to teach you how to protect yourself. And they'll work their way up into shooting and teaching you how to maintain this and keep control of it and shoot accurately. Yes, I think everybody, if they choose so to be armed, by all means be armed. The average police officer, they're already in here, and they will tell you, our training tells us, we train on this. Everywhere we go, somebody's armed. Right? Everywhere a police officer goes, somebody is armed. He's armed. There's a gun there.
Getting back to the scenario.
Okay.
When you were saying that we can have more than one active shooter. In our church, you can't go through those doors and you just go out. You have to go through the doors and go out and go down. Okay. If I would think we have deaconess and older members that sits in the front, they can't really crawl. So I would suggest they would just, if they can get out and just hide, be still, don't move.
Right.
That's the best thing I would suggest.
Right.
And there are some with, I'm sorry, but there are also some that have physical handicaps that they can't just be still.
Right. And again, they're always in any crowd, especially come to a church, if you go out in the public, there's going to be people that have limitations. Yeah, do you want to help them? You know, again, think about all these things. We're talking about it now, right? Things you've never really thought about. How would you react? You know, think about the poor guy in a wheelchair. It's a little electric wheelchair. We all know they go not that fast, right? Would you be willing to reach over there and knock that thing into neutral and push them to help them? You know, think these things through.
Okay, Sergeant, I'd just like to tell the women what we mentioned last week. Women, you are already armed. Look at your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You got those heels, okay? Use it as a weapon. And most times, if they are spiked, those tall heels, you can do some damage. So you're already armed, in a sense.
Absolutely. Remember, I showed you the book, long ways, and you hit it, and it's just like hitting somebody with a brick. Think of that same amount of force in an area about that big, about as thick as your heel is. That'll break bone. You stomp a foot. You kick somebody in the midsection. You're going to stick, that heel's going in if you kick hard enough, I promise. Yeah, you've got weapons. You don't necessarily have to have a gun. Weapons are here. You just have to be creative. You know, while he's doing the smart thing, she's doing like that over there. Everybody know what she's doing? Right there. Right there at the palm of your hand. Strike. Oh, yeah. Okay. You won't break your fingers. And I promise you got all of this coming. Okay? You will hurt somebody. You may think you won't, but you will hurt somebody. Yeah, especially if you, right there, up and back. I promise they'll stop. Whatever they're doing, they'll stop.
Okay, Sergeant, we're going to go to scenario number 4. We're going to skip 3 because of time. We know some of the ushers have to get on the road, so we're going to go to scenario number 4, and then he's going to show the video.
All right, scenario number 4, it's a Sabbath morning around 10:30. Sabbath school's in session. A female visitor with a large purse came in the front right door asking for the pastor by name. Some member directed her to the pastor's office. The visitor knocked on the pastor's door. Pastor said, "Come in." Female visitor pulled out a gun while entering the pastor's office. The pastor has no way to escape, nor is there any security in his office. Visitor held the pastor hostage, and she left his office, came down the hall, continued toward the sanctuary. One of the members pulled out a weapon, and she began shooting into the sanctuary. What should you do? Any thoughts? I'll just tell you, as soon as she went into the pastor's office, if somebody outside knew she had a gun, you needed to call. Right then.
At Maranatha, we have been told to never to direct, if someone come in asking for a person by name or either just asking, never say, oh, he's over there. The pastor is in his study. First of all, maybe call one of the deacons or elders, which they are standing with us a lot of most every Sabbath at our station, and to direct, ask for that person's name and ask them to wait, and then find out whether or not they are, legit or whatever. But we don't just take them to the pastor or take them to the community service leader, because we don't know what's going on in their head.
Right. And I would actually agree with you and tell you I like hearing that, because we don't know who's coming in, right? If it's not somebody you all know, by you all, I mean more than a couple of you, we don't know, right? There's nobody here that can vouch for them. So are they here to do evil or are they not? We don't know. So let's not make it easy by taking them where they want to get to. Let's bring somebody to them. That gives you an opportunity to sit and watch them. We all know, we talked about it last week. A lot of times people have telltale signs. You watch them long enough, you'll figure out there's a little something off with them. Something's not right. Right? So, of course, the good Christian thing is we welcome everybody in, right? Right? We don't sit in judgment, right? But sitting in judgment and keeping an eye on somebody until we know they're not here to do something they shouldn't be doing, I think that's two different things. Yes, ma'am.
Also, the pastor should be trained that he never allow anyone in his office that he can't see and know who they are. So we need to train our pastors and our leaders as well.
Right. I would do it. And given some of the climate today, in some situations especially, if you're interacting with somebody, especially if it's somebody you don't know, I would never interact with them one-on-one. I would keep it 2-on-1, 3-on-1. Just saying, we live in a different world today, right? We discussed it last week. It's not a slam on anybody with a mental health issue, but funding has been cut to mental health. We're not providing the services to those folks that we need to be. We're not, flat out. Anybody who's spent any time over here on Candler Road, you see a lot of them out there, right? I don't know the answer. What I do know is they've cut funding, and I have been told that sometime this year, Georgia Regional over on Panthersville Road will only house criminally insane. Understand, that is people who've been convicted of a crime but have been deemed mentally unstable, and they can't go to a prison. That is all I have been told is going to be housed over there. So the question is where are all the other patients? Right? They're moved out into the neighborhoods because they've determined it's better to put them in a personal care home, which again, I agree, get them out with the general public, because as long as they're doing what they're supposed to be, those are great people. They just got a little tick about them they're different. The problem is that they take their meds. When they get feeling better, they think they're cured. They quit taking them. and then we end up dealing with them in a homeless situation, walking the road, begging stuff, begging money. A lot of them, that's who you see on Candler Road. Okay? Or they'll say, I don't like taking my meds because I don't feel good. Why not take them? And I always ask them, have you told your doctor? Most of the time they hadn't, because they are under the impression that's all they're getting. So again, the mental aspect of, we're going to have people walk in the front door for help, right? That's what the church is for. Church helps people, right? But we don't know who they are. We don't know where they're coming from, so let's not put ourselves in a one-on-one situation with them. As I pointed out last week, what's happened in this country for the last 17 years? Anybody got an idea? No, not even that. Military. Since 2001, we've been involved with armed conflict throughout the world at some place. There's a lot of veterans here. Those guys are trained. So again, never go one-on-one. 2 or 3 on one if you have to talk to somebody, right? Most of the guys, and don't let me scare you guys off, almost all those guys are perfectly fine. They're just trained, right? And they're not afraid of conflict. That's the big thing you need to remember. They're not afraid of it. They've faced that bear, and they're fine. Where? All right. If nobody has any questions, we're going to kick on with this video. Which one are we going with? Void denied. Okay. This is a good video. It gets kind of crazy.
There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
Everything last weekend? Very nice, wasn't it?
Heard about is the new system enhancement. What's going to be the solution by the time we...
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Actually think he's got an old, well, he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested.
There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
Issues that we found. Okay, Emily, see what that is. See what's going on. Just let us know what you find out. There's a man with a gun. It's right there. Against the wall. Lights. Lock it.
There you go. You're safe for that.
There's a guy with a gun shooting. Look.
James, what do I do?
No, look.
Run! 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 To the right, to the right, to the loading dock. Come on, this way, this way, this way. Oh, no, come in. Yeah, in here, in here. The gunman's coming.
What are we going to do?
We're going to have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're going to see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight, all right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Get the gun! Hey! Hold him down, hold him down! Yes, we're all going to go home. Everybody's going home. Yeah.
If you ever have the misfortune to be in an active shooter event, you deserve to survive. In our research, we have found that the actions that potential victims take during these events are critical to their survival. We have identified 3 options that have proven effective in many events. These are: avoid the attacker, deny the attacker access to your area, defend yourself. It is a personal decision, but you have a right to do so. Avoiding the attacker starts with being aware of your surroundings at all times and knowing what is going on around you. If you see or hear something that looks suspicious, take action. For example, the stalker took immediate and effective action to protect himself when he observed the shooter pulling out weapons from the bag. Others, however, hesitated, and this hesitation can cost them valuable time that they could have used to get away from the threat. If you hear something that is, or could be, gunfire, start trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Gunfire has a distinctive sound. Inside of buildings, the sound can be muffled or distorted. A single loud bang could be a person dropping something, or even thunder. But repeated loud bangs are much more likely to be gunfire. Additionally, look at the reaction of others. Are they startled or scared? Are they running? What are they saying? Any one of these events individually may create denial, but when put together should create a heightened awareness and stimulate an immediate response. It is important that you know how to get out. The situation will be chaotic and rapidly changing. In general, you will want to go to the nearest exit. But you must also understand that the closest exit may not be accessible or safe to use. If this is the case, go to a different exit. While avoiding the threat, consider the uses of cover and concealment. Cover offers protection from gunfire, while concealment minimizes your exposure to the attacker. Try to keep objects between you and the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, sometimes the best option will be to deny the attacker access to your location. In many locations, this can be accomplished by closing and locking a door, such as they did in the meeting room. Locking the door has proven effective in many attacks. If the door does not have a lock, you can place heavy objects in front of it. Remember, barricades work best if the door opens toward you. If it doesn't, use things that are readily available, such as straps, belts, or objects that can be used to block or secure the door to make it difficult for the attacker to enter the room. This may at least slow the attacker down and give you time to identify alternate means of escape, such as adjoining rooms or windows. When attempting to deny access to your location, you want to make it appear that there is no one in your area. Lock doors, turn off the lights, silence your phones, and get out of sight. Your attempt to deny the attacker access to your location might fail.
The gunman's coming.
What are we going to do?
We're going to have to defend ourselves.
Have a backup plan about what you will do. In many cases, this may be to defend yourself. You need to be in a place where you can act if the attacker comes into your location. In most rooms, you will line up against the same wall that the door is on, near the door so you can react, but not directly in front of it. If you are unable to avoid or deny, your best option may be to defend yourself by using whatever is available. In a situation where someone is attempting to kill you, you have the legal right to defend yourself. Attack weak spots such as eyes, throat, and groin. Fight to the best of your ability and do not quit until the attacker is stopped. This is what the workers in the warehouse did when they were unable to avoid the attacker and felt their lives were in immediate danger. Whatever option you choose, call 911 as soon as you are in a safe location. Provide any information that you know. The operator will ask you a lot of questions. If you don't know the answer, don't guess. Just say you don't know and only state the facts. This will be a complex situation, and we can't tell you what you should do in every case. What we can do is provide you with information about the options that we have found to be most effective for surviving these attacks. The ultimate choice is yours. What you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Law enforcement will be entering a chaotic scene with limited information. Their first priority will be to stop the threat to your safety. The police may not know where or who the threat is. Listen and comply with their commands immediately.
Put it down, sir. Put it down. Both of you on the ground.
Police are trained to look at people's hands to assess threats. Do not have anything in your hands that could be perceived as a weapon, such as a cell phone.
Show me your hands, sir. Show me your hands. Move to us. Everybody, keep your hands up, please. Walk out the door.
If told to do so, stay where you are and do not make sudden movements. Again, follow all commands. Remember, what you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Remember, ADD. You can survive.
All right, remember everybody, I told you earlier that it's going to take a while for the police once they get there. It's going to take us a while. I noticed it last week when we were talking. Did you notice at the end when they came out and started hugging one another, the people that had been trapped up in there and the ones that got out? Did you notice it was dark outside? Did you notice it was sunshine outside when that all started? It's a very good representation. It will take us time, especially a large facility. This church will probably take us an hour, hour and a half to clear, because we're going to ensure that everything's safe. Not once, but twice. We're going back through to verify. So it takes a while. So if you're caught in that situation and you have to get in that deny stance, it may take us a minute to get there. You stay there till you know it's the police. Right? Lock the door. Simple lock on the door will do more than you could ever imagine. What is this person's goal? Hurt people. kill people, right? I want to get hurt and kill the easy people. If I have to deal with a locked door, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to the unlocked door. It proved out, and I believe it was the University of Virginia shooting, with that shooter, went in this room, bang, 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 walks out, goes to the next room, door's locked, goes to the next room, bang, bang, bang. Let me go back to that first room. Bang, bang, bang. Classrooms that they locked the door, no one was injured. And he went back and forth several times. Okay? A locked door to deny them works well. It works very well. So again, have a plan. Think about this stuff. Talk to your families about this stuff, because this can happen anywhere. You only hear about the schools, right? Was that? Let me see if that was up there. Can't remember. Was my actual shootings. This is our priorities. Let's just go on with this. The police priorities. This is what happens when we get there. We're going to address the threat. We're not doing anything else until we have made that threat go away. Okay? Our next thing is we're going to secure that location. That's what I just told you. That's going to take some time. We got rid of the threat that we knew of, right? But who's to say there's not another threat? Who's to say in the Columbine, there was additional threats there. There was pipe bombs. Some of these guys have plans to hurt people. Providing aid to the injured. Like I said, it may take us a minute to get to that point. Given here, let's say something happened here. My guess is what's going to happen, we're going to come in and address the threat. We're going to continue through. And we're going to get an initial safe zone, probably in the lobby area. Whereas we come up on injured, we're going to get them pushed back there. Okay? Don't think it's going to be something where you're just going to sit and sit and sit. We're going to get you, but we've got to get you someplace safe. Right? Things you need to consider about what you're doing. They address these in the video. Remain calm and follow the officer's instruction. I can tell you the instructions. I showed them to you. Hands up, fingers spread, nothing in your hands, and just do what they tell you. More than likely it's going to be come to me, come to me, come to me. They may tell you to stop, spin around, keep your hands up. They're going to visually check you to make sure they don't see any weapons. And then they may check you, pat you down once you get to them. It's not going to be just one officer. It's going to be several. And it's going to be a very tense situation. All of those officers are going to have weapons out. Okay? Because they don't know if there's additional threats. Put down any items in your hands, i.e. bags, jackets. I promise at some point, ladies, you will get your purse back. I promise. It may take a little bit, but I promise you will get it back. Immediately raise your hands and spread your fingers. Again, I have nothing. This right here in my hand, what could that be? Literally, what could this be? Yeah, it could very much be a weapon, especially if I am a sophisticated guy. This could be a detonator. This could be a grenade. This could be a pipe bomb. This could be anything. This is a weapon. Get rid of it. Throw it down. nothing in your hands at all. Keep your hands visible at all times. Again, you move quickly. We're already in a heightened adrenaline state. Everybody is. Everybody's scared. And if some police officer tells you they're not ever scared, they're lying. Okay? We get scared. It's okay. Avoid the quick movements towards the officers, such as attempting to hold on to them for safety. Parents, this is where you come in big time. The little ones, they're going to be terrified, right? A lot of the times, they're excited to see the public safety guys, the firemen and police. Hopefully, you've always told them if you're scared you have a problem, go to these guys. They're going to help you. You need to keep them in check because they very well may make a dart for the officers. Unless they're holding some weapon, the officer will see that for what it is. Okay? But what the officer doesn't need is that child coming up and grabbing him around the legs and tripping him up. As I said, he's got his gun out. And if he trips and that gun goes off, we're in a bad situation, right? So just food for thought, things to think of. Avoid pointing, screaming, or yelling. There's already going to be enough of that going on. Marjorie Stoneman Elementary, the recent one, right? Does anybody know anything significant about that? That day, they had done a fire drill. The shooter that afternoon pulled the fire alarm. Why? Brought his victims out to him in the halls for the teachers that didn't pay attention to look out. Again, these are things to be cognizant of. It's going to be chaos. These people want victims. That is all they want. They want to be superstars in, I don't know whose eyes. I really, honest to God, do not know what their thought processes are. I will never speak their names. Notice I've referred to the shootings, not the names of the shooters. Right? We don't need to speak their names. I think our media is irresponsible by putting their names out there. That's my personal view. Do not stop to ask the officers for help or direction when evacuating. They are going to tell you where you need to go. They're going to say, go down the hall. The next officer will tell you where you're going. There should be no confusion there. You don't need to tell them, but I need to go meet so-and-so. No, you need to go this way. You can meet up when you get outside. Right? Here's the big one. When you do get to make that 911 call, and they just said it on the deny part. Let's say you get into that barricaded, I'm safe here in this office position. Doors locked, lights out. Are you going to call 911? They've kind of said it two ways in the video. Preferably, I would say if you get an opportunity to call 911 to let them know we're in the pastor's office, there's 4 of us, and hang up. Turn your phone off and be done. So that somebody knows you're in there. But don't have it so your phone's ringing to draw somebody to you. Right? Because, like I said, chaos, and your friend's going to get outside and, where's Joey? Let me text. Let me call. I'm not seeing so-and-so. Where are they at? Tell me I'm wrong. We all have phones, right? Which goes back to being aware of where you're at, what's going on. How many of you do Facebook or any of that stuff? And I still want to get this picture because to me it speaks volumes. Remember, be aware of your surroundings. We talked about the fire. We talked about that fire, correct? Did we not? All those people died in the door because they weren't aware of where they were at. Put your phones down. Put your phones down. Look around. Engage with your environment. Be engaged with your environment. There was an artist, a photographer, who decided, watching people, he went and he took his camera and went to the malls and all, made pictures of people. And then he went in and photoshopped the phones out of their hands. And you got a bunch of people standing there looking at each other, but looking at their hands. Not a one of them's engaged with their surroundings. That is dangerous. That is how you become a victim. Flat out. Things you want to tell our 911 operator, the location of that shooter. They're also going to ask you for a description. Be as absolute descriptive as you can. It's hard to do. It is very hard to do. The number of shooters. Again, we're not going to guess. If you know for a fact there's 3, I've seen 3. The next thing that operator, can you describe them? You're going to give them the one you remember the absolute best. We get it. You're not going to know them all. Right? You know, there's a white guy with a beard wearing camouflage. Probably 6'2". The next one's a Chinese guy with a red hat. Whatever you got, that's all you need to give. Don't make anything up, because remember, additional people are calling. We're going to put a picture together. The number and type of weapons. Nobody in here knows weapons, right? A couple of you might. Here's an easy way. It's a long gun. It's a rifle. Right? If it's a rifle or it's a long gun. That's all you need to say. Or it's a pistol. That's all you need to say. If you don't know exactly what kind of gun it is, that works. The number of the potential victims and their location, if you know. Because again, the first thing you're going to do is avoid, right? So, because we didn't make our 911 call until we got outside where we were safe, right? You may very well have gone past somebody who was hurt. So you know where somebody who's hurt is. Let us know. Right? And this is bad. It sounds horrible when I say it. You may see somebody hurt. You need to go. You're going to want to help them, I know. If you can't help them and pick them up and take them with you, you need to go. Because you never know. You don't know what that might be a setup there. This is another little video. Do you want to watch this one? This one is about the same. This is the one that just showed the 3 different. This is a different video. It's not very long. It's maybe 8 minutes. Okay? They just go a little further. They show 3 different locations.
Like a movie theater or a restaurant, and opens fire.
It is really impossible to predict where or when something like that is going to happen. But knowing just 1 or 2 ways to react could really mean all the difference when you have only seconds to decide.
Investigator Bill Spencer teams up with a former Secret Service agent to help you escape an active shooter.
We've all got to die, and I'm going to start with you.
It has happened way too many times.
Holmes shot 82 people inside a packed Colorado movie theater, killing 12.
3 restaurants were hit in a matter of hours.
They came running in. One of them had a weapon.
Armed gunmen targeting innocent people in very public places. In restaurants, movie theaters, shopping centers.
Worst thing you do is nothing.
Now, under the guidance of Jim Napolitano, former U.S. Secret Service agent to President George H.W. Bush, we're about to show you how to survive 3 deadly shooting situations, starting with this one.
We all gotta die.
A crazed gunman has just entered the restaurant you're dining in. What are you going to do now? You've just seen what not to do. Rule number 1, don't hide under a table, because immediately you become a perfect target.
A lot of times people go underneath the table. Well, that doesn't get you away from the shooter. That just gives them easy place for you to be shot.
Come on, get out of here. Get that door.
Instead, Jim says run to the nearest exit and get out of there. If you can't find an exit, run to a bathroom or a closet, which instantly becomes a safe room, and lock yourself in. Your very last option, Jim says, is to attack the attacker, focusing on getting his weapon away.
He's attacking other people. We have the chance. We're going to go in and attack this weapon. Go. We're going to go in and push it down and get it away from him.
Scenario number 2, a gunman enters the theater that you're in and begins firing into the crowd. This is definitely the wrong thing to do. If you just sit there, or even worse, stand up, again, you make yourself the perfect target.
What we want to do is use the concealment of the chairs in the darkness to get down on the ground and crawl away, get away as fast as possible.
Remember, Jim says, hit the floor, and the theater seats will give you concealment. And finally, scenario number 3, you're out shopping. You could be at the mall, a strip center, or right out on the streets. But just turning and running will get you killed. Your goal, Jim says, should be to get out of the shooter's line of sight.
In an area like this, there is cover. There are cars, there are shops, there are places for us to go.
Remember, the key to surviving a shooting situation is always put something between you and the shooter. Now, if you missed anything in our story and would like to see it again, or simply watch it at your own pace, you can do that. The entire story is available online at clicktohouston.com. Just click on the top stories section. I'm Bill Spencer, Channel 2 Investigates.
Okay, they just showed some different areas, and I like showing it because, again, it's not always going to be where you would think it would be, right? It happened on the street, it happened in the movie theater, Colorado. At the movie theater. Everybody remembers that. They just addressed it in there. 80-something people shot, 12 dead. You know why that guy got caught? Because he was acting odd in the parking lot. He was out. He was dressed like the police. And an officer interacted with him and he wasn't acting right. That's how he got caught. Just food for thought. These guys come in, their goal is to hurt people and either take their own life or get away. That's their goal. That's their intent. It's nothing more, nothing less. They want to hurt people. We need to stop that as best we can. We need to keep ourselves safe. We need to survive. We need, yes, ma'am. Right. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and again, it's right. And for those that couldn't hear, the question is kind of what do we do? Our congregation is older, more difficult to run, more difficult to get down, belly crawl under these pews. I get that. That's where, more important than anything, that's what this class is about. Because I can't tell you how to protect you. What I can tell you is that you need to be thinking about that. Because does anybody, who's familiar with what they call the OODA loop? Sounds silly, right? It's observe, orient, decide, and act. You do that in your mind over and over. It's called the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. Sorry, excuse me, I was drawing a blank. First, you're going to observe a stimulus. You're going to see it or you're going to hear it. You're going to see something. Right? Then your mind's got to orient to it. What is that? Right? Then you're going to decide. This is what I'm going to do, and then you're going to act. You do that repetitively throughout your day. Every little decision you make. Gentleman popped in the back door and said, shoot, shoot, shoot. Several people jumped and turned and looked. Right? You weren't expecting that. Because nobody's thought of something like that happening. So when you observed it, you couldn't orient to it. You didn't decide, you didn't act. The big thing of this is you got to talk to yourself, talk to your families, your neighbors. How can we handle this? We. This is not a me. Me is, I got to keep me safe. But the we is, how can we handle this? Right? All of you can survive these situations. But you can only do it if you've got a plan, an idea. You ain't got to think of everything in the world. But if you have an idea and you get caught into it, just a slight sliver of an idea, at least when you do get to that decide point, you've thought of it and you can act. Does everybody follow me? I mean, I want you to be able to act. I want you to be able to do something. Don't just sit there and be a victim. Again, if all you can do is throw a hymnal, throw it as hard as you can. Because if you throw the hymnal, right, who's to say this fine gentleman over here couldn't use that moment where that book hit the guy in the head and he does this number and he tackles him. Again, do not take a victim mentality. You cannot be a victim in this situation. You have to be the winner.
Amen.
No matter what. Is that? I mean, and as we addressed, there are other weapons here. You ladies have these heels, and I'm sure some of you can be quite deadly with those things when you want to be. And I'm sure I got some mamas in here that are pretty good with those hairbrushes too. Right? Again, do not think of weapons in the traditional sense. Just because somebody has a gun does not mean they're going to win the battle. Right? You can win the battle. You can win it.
All right, Sergeant. We're going to go ahead and cut it here because they have other things they need to cover. We like to thank Gary and Sergeant Stafford from DeKalb County Homeland Security for working with us. And Mountainside will be carrying a lot of these type of seminars to better protect you, and also we also do for disaster preparedness as well. So watch out. We'll be doing that. We'll welcome all the churches from around to participate in those seminars as we give those seminars. All right, thank you, and we'd like to thank the Usher Federation for allowing us to invite Sergeant Stafford.
A lot of information, right? A lot of information, correct? Guys, I know some of you guys are from the Carolinas as well as Savannah and other areas. You know, get in contact with your local police departments. Find out who in that police department does these kind of programs. Invite them to your church, because you're not the only one that should know this, but your entire congregation should know this kind of information on how to defend themselves and not be a victim. As I said before, you control the scenario on do you either live or you die. So please get in contact with your local police stations and get in contact with the desk sergeants and ask them if they have an active shooting program, and have one of those officers come to your churches and put on a demonstration. I'm pretty sure Sergeant Stafford is not going to drive all the way out to Savannah, you know, as much as I know he loves everybody, but I don't think he's going to do it. So he has a lot of other colleagues in other precincts around the state of Georgia that could give you all the information you need. Amen? Amen. We're going to, sorry?
If you look at your resource sheet, those are links to websites that you can go and use so that will give you a lot of information in your area. The last sheet you got. Let's give them another round of applause. I tell you, that was some very interesting information. I've heard it several times, and I find something new each time. I'm a Red Cross disaster worker. I work with them. As he said, if you want it in your area, call your police department, call the Red Cross. They do have people that can come to you. Well, our time is going, and we have another training. But before we have that training, I need you to stand up. Now reach up. See how high you can reach. Bring it down. Reach out. You woke now? Okay, you can have your seats. I have some good news that I want to share. You may be seated. The Georgia Usher Federation has a scholarship program that we do every year. This year we're a little late with the 2017 program, but it was sent out to the churches. We had a few churches that responded, and it gives me pleasure to announce the scholarship winners as Marquavian Green from Savannah West Broad, and from Emmanuel Deanna Rafferton. These are students. I see one parent still here. I know she's happy. Stand on up. Her daughter is receiving it. Savannah West Broad was scheduled to leave at 6 o'clock, so they had to leave, but I did go out and tell them. And the young man was one of the ushers that was here today, helping. He helped serve with the meal. He helped do anything he thought he could help. He's a very, very helpful young man. So I was glad to, I'll get it, that's okay. Yeah, I was glad to be able to offer that scholarship to him.
The scholarship for 2018 will start in July. Ask your head usher, if you know a young person that's eligible, to be given a scholarship. They need to either be an usher or relative of an usher. If I'm an usher and I have a grandchild that is in school, needs a little bit of help, they can be submitted. There's a form that you can receive from the scholarship committee. All you have to do, if you don't have one, give me a call and I'll see to it that they send one out to you. It has to be turned back in before the end of September. If we don't receive it before the end of September, it's just like you never sent it. And I know that sounds horrible when you say it, but because we must follow guidelines and time things, I have to do it that way. July, it will start. If nobody has contacted you, contact them. If you have someone that you would like to involve, we must have it back by the end of September, and our next scholarship will be announced in October. I need 4 volunteers, quickly. Four volunteers. Got 1. Missionary volunteers. I got 1. Need 3 people. Got 2. Got 3. Thank you very much. Have 4 people. They don't even know what they're volunteering for. But that's what ushers are. You know, we usher in our church, and for the most part, each church has a different procedure for doing things. In some churches, the deacons take up the offering. In some churches, the deacons and the deaconess take up the offering. In some churches, the deacons and ushers lift the offering. But there's always something different, except at camp meeting. At camp meeting, we lift the offering the same way every day. How many plan to be at camp meeting? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll change your mind by then. Camp meeting is the 6th to the 17th of June. And a lot of you I'll see there. We have ushers that usher every night. And then we have ushers that usher on Sabbath. The main thing with ushering is you keep your eye on the money. Can you repeat that? Don't sound like you believe it. You do what? You keep your eye on the money. I want you to be there. I want you to go on the other side. I want you to be here. I want you to go on the other side. Okay? At the end of the row, starting of the row, whichever way you want to say it, I have buckets. Where the buckets are, those folk are going to pick the buckets up. Pick the buckets up. You're going to pick all of them up. You're going to turn to where you're going to serve. They've called for the offering. They've said the prayer. This person's job is to then pass the bucket. Not hold on to it, not walk down, give it to the person here. Move to the next row and do the same thing. You're walking. The person that's here on the other end, this ain't like you take up the deacon stuff. You come back. No. Those buckets are going out. You don't move until you get that bucket. Okay? In other words, you will be accumulating the buckets as you go down. But you're watching the buckets. Why are you watching them?
Because I'm keeping my eye on the money.
Keeping your eye on the money. The other time that ushers need to be looking, and I had not paid much attention to it until one of the safety officers at camp meeting mentioned it. At the end of service, everybody's all caught up, and you get a call for the appeal. And people could do what? Come all up to the front. What's left behind? All of their articles. Ushers, when that appeal happens, we need to move. We've not done that previously. Things have come up missing. A big thing has not been made of it, but we've tried to recover. You will have assignments when you come in. You pick those back up and bring them back. You will have assignments when you're out to come on the floor. When the appeal happens, I know you've gone to your stations or gone with your family. Whatever area you're in, we're going to work on a system where you can now become the eyes that are needed for the protection of the people. I don't think that's asking too much, because I don't want to turn church out when mine come up missing. And that's what's going to happen. And that's what most of you are going to do. When you come back and your tablet is gone, your purse is gone, your belongings are gone, first thing, somebody done move my stuff. And it's not going to be pretty. You're not going to say it pretty because you're upset. So it's one of the things that we're going to try to cover. Okay. What is your responsibility at the offering? Tell me. What are you supposed to do when they call for the offering? And do what? Pass it out right there. What are you going to do? And you're going to move. Now, this row may pass the bucket a little. It may not be as many people. They may pass it quicker. But you're going to still get those buckets, and you're watching. Instead of now, you're not just watching this row. You're watching this one and that one. Okay? What are you going to do? You doing who?
I'm passing out.
You sure that's what you want to do?
And keep my eye on the money as well.
And what are you going to do? How quickly are you going to move? Okay, but you didn't get the bucket off for this row yet. Why are you moving? Once you get that row's bucket, you move to the next one, okay? Any other questions? I know it's late. Yes, Sister Gleaton. I hope not. I hope you're going to look in the area where you are. And you're going to be reverent, okay? You're going to, when you were on the floor working, your assignment was here. However, after all of that was done and you went and sat down, you sat over there now. So when the appeal comes, all I'm asking is that you become aware of what's around you. Stand up in that area, and you're protecting that area. It's not going back to your original post. Question? I would say you're supposed to be ushering, although you can still be a part of the appeal from where you are. And I guess that sounds funny when you say it. When you stand up, that's an indication that you're part of the appeal. But you don't have to be on the rostrum or up there where somebody can touch you in order to be part of the appeal. That sound twisted? Where you are. Brother Norris? No, talk so everybody can hear you.
I want to know, I have a $20 bill, and I need change. I'm not going to give the whole 20. I'm putting 5 into the offering bucket. How do I go back and get my change?
You tell the usher what you need. The usher comes to the back. Please remember whose money you got. You know, if you feel like you're not going to remember whose money you got, you may need to ask them to come to the back to get the change. Yes. And that's just what I said. Now, remember, you're at camp meeting where you now have 5,000 people seated there. He said they gave you a $20 bill. They gave, which means you now have it in your hand. The ideal thing is remember who gave you the money. Because when they come back there to get on your case, I'm going out the door. That's what she said. Don't put it in the basket. Have it in your hand. Did you hear that one? He says somebody has a $10 or $20 bill, and as the money's passing them, they see that there's a 5 and a 10 and some ones in there. So they drop something into, and they're taking out. What is your action supposed to be? What do you say? Don't you take that out of that. No. Talk to me. Their hand is in that bucket as it's coming past them. Tell me how you're going to handle it.
I would say, excuse me, can you give me your money and I'll bring your change back?
Sounds like a good one to me. Nicely, gently. I don't need to have to hear it on the back.
Right. In that scenario where they've already put the money in the bucket, maybe the bucket is halfway the middle of the row, and I see them put something in there. It could be a 20, it might be a 2 or $1, but they're taking out. So I think the situation, to me, I would go over, and the only thing I could do really is counsel them. I can't accuse them of something that they may or may not have done. So I would say, sir or madam, our policy here is that you would hand the money over to the usher, and we will get the money we will get your change for you. Would you please kindly remember that in the future?
Anybody else? Did you hear what he said? The hand's already been in there. You don't know what went in the bucket. But through it all, with the good usher, doing the good representation, okay? That's why I said this person is watching the money. The one on that side has the responsibility of passing it out, passing out the buckets. The one that's collecting the buckets has a big responsibility. And if when you get your assignment, they usually say to you, okay, you'll be passing, you'll be collecting. If you feel you have a problem keeping up with that, that's the time to say it. I'd rather pass the buckets out, okay, so that we can put a person that's attentive there. If you're shy to speak to people, you know, everybody don't talk like Sister Lockett. She run her mouth all the time. But everybody can't do that, and I know that. So if you're uncomfortable in that position, the time to tell me is when you get the assignment, not when it's time to go on the floor. Sister Perry.
This has happened, that you had said earlier. If you are picking up the money, and I would say about 3 people have already said, I need change. Bring me this back. Bring me that back. Now, when you get to 4, you may say, well, I already got 3. I'm trying to keep up with I got to bring 3 back. I got to bring 5 back. I got to bring 10 back. When you get to that 4th one, you might forget. So what you say, well, you're going to need to go to the table and get your change. Is that what you're saying? Okay, I just want to know, because this has happened, you know, at camp meeting with me.
Deborah, come on. They can't hear you there. At least 4 people that needing change.
Okay. Okay, 4 people, and you're trying to remember who those 4 people are. You're not to go into the bucket to give change. That's your question. That's the whole scenario, or what?
If she can't remember all
4, right?
What would she tell that person?
What would she tell the 4th person? Probably, I would not, or I'd be very specific in making sure that I remember those individuals, because especially on Sabbath, I mean, when you have 4,000 people that's in the auditorium and they packed and jammed in there, I personally would probably maybe get their money after, come back or what have you, and then be able to calculate so I can keep it in my mind. I'm a person that can't remember everybody and where they are. If I would get confused with that, I would not, because you don't know who said to bring what back to them. That's what I'm understanding the question.
So then she's saying her next thing would be to say, at this time, if you'll just go back to the table, they'll make change.
I like that. That's a better. Yeah, that scenario had not came up before. Anybody. Well, there may be 1 or 2, like she said, that she can't remember. And especially people that she knows who come to camp meeting. But if it get to be cumbersome for her, then I would suggest that, you know, telling them to go back to the table. Or if they mind if I come back after and then get their money where I can, you know, be more in tune. Because there are some ushers who are there who forget, and the individual has to come looking for them, and they will seek you out. It's the help. Right, right. And right, and it's big. You've been to the campground. Okay, and on Sabbaths you see how many people are there. So yeah, you can get lost.
When somebody usually asks me to get them change, I usually, like if I'm picking up the buckets, right? First thing I do, I look at them real good and see what they got on, what color, whatever they wearing, and I also count how many rows back I'm in, so I know exactly where to bring that money to.
Okay, but now you got four people that you got four people that ask for change. See, that's what we're saying. If you're at that, if you know you can go back and identify that one person, the rest of them you tell, come to the table. There's going to be somebody at that table from the time they call for the offering. Okay? So they...
Okay, what you don't want to do is that you don't want to lose money. You can take as much as you want. All you have to do is just ask the folks, if I don't come back to you, look for me. Right? Because guess what? You're not dealing with 4,000 persons. That's something you have to remember. You are not dealing with 4,000 persons. You are dealing with a set of individuals. Right? So, simply put, take the money. Look for me. If I don't come back to you, come back to me. Then you will, as you would have marked them, you mark them. So when they come to you, you know exactly if you don't come back to them. Because really and truly, some folks might be sitting there, and because you move on past them, you don't get that money again.
My question is, why are we making change anyway? Because everybody basically come. That may be, maybe a senior citizen that may not be able to go out. But how long have we been in the church? Why are we making change? We're not a bank. Why don't we just stop it altogether? I hear the brother about losing money and all like that, but when you go to the bank, cash your check or go to the bank or whatever, you can get a bundle of singles, singles or fives or whatever.
I understand exactly what she's saying, but some people just don't think. And when they opened their pocketbook, the only thing they saw in there was that 10, and I got to have 8 of that to eat with. And we don't get it that often, but it does happen. Yes and no. Yes and no. You may not have noticed at camp meeting, whenever the offering is being lifted, there are some safety officers that automatically step in place. What the ushers aren't seeing, they're seeing. They are armed security officers. And I tell you, some of them are like a hawk. We know who they are. Everyone else may not, have even noticed that they're in place. But as soon as that offering is called for, they step in place. Whether it's during the evening service, 11 o'clock service, whichever service, they're always there. They are armed security folk.
Well, just brainstorming here a little bit, I was thinking, well, one suggestion is that perhaps you could have designated runners, change runners, that stay at the back table, just as we look up the aisles when we are trying to seat people, and one says, come up, the usher could say, we need 5 here. And the change runner comes up and gives the change to the person and then goes back. Then the occupant themselves would not have to move, which would be the other suggestion, would be the occupant or the church member would go to the back table to get their change, rather than us trying to remember, 5 or 10 different people. So you could have a runner, or you could require the person to go and get their change from the back.
We'll take that into consideration. I like that runner idea, but the offering that came from back there, that's where it'd have to come from. They would have to come out of the offering that's back there, because I see you don't have none. Before they can run. We will be continuing to fine-tune this. Sister Deborah heard some good suggestions. I heard some good suggestions. Patricia heard some good suggestions. If you have any other suggestions, email us. Go ahead. That's a good idea. There again, that means we'd have to have a bank in the back already, because the person that needed change was up here on 2 and the offering hasn't gotten to the back yet. Okay, any other comments or suggestions? I thank you very much again for coming out, setting aside this day to spend with us. I do hope that the day has been beneficial to you. Tell somebody about what you learned today. And I tell you, it was just so super good to have the whole sermon focus on us. I've heard it several times today. Made me feel real good. And it really made me feel good that for a change I got to sit and listen to the sermon. Deborah, you have anything else? If not, guess what? Let's stand. Oh, I heard all them bones too. Side by side we stand, awaiting God's command, worshiping the saving King, having by His grace and moving out in faith, Jesus Himself will see us through. Let's join hands. Why don't you meet me in heaven? We'll join hands together. Come on and meet me at the Savior's side. I'll meet you in heaven. We'll sing songs together. Brothers and sisters, I'll be there. Soldiers all are we. Soldiers all to go. To fight the foe that we shall overcome. Heaven is our goal. To save every soul. Pray that we'll all will be. Why don't you meet me? Why don't you meet me in heaven? We'll join hands. Come on and meet me at the Savior's side. I'll meet you in heaven. We'll sing songs together. Brothers and sisters, I'll be there. Pray that we all pray that we all will be there. Ask Pastor Brown to close us out, and please remember Brother Ned Carlisle. Here this morning, he had to read the prophet Israel, but please let's all be in prayer.
Bowing our heads together, Father in heaven, thank you so much for your love for each of us and our families. And even when we pray, we know that you care about us. We're thankful to be alive, whereby we can work in your ministry for your people. And that is our desire, to see them prosper and go forth as you do as well. So, Lord, keep us in reasonable health. And as we go to our various churches, lead us, guide us to do the right thing that will represent you at all times. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Safe travels. Hope to see you at camp meeting. And if you can't come during the week, ladies come in white, all white on Sabbath, men black and white. See you in June.